An invasion fleet approached Earth. What the next moment terrified them all. The Armada. The Armada stretched across the void like a constellation of death. 300 warships, each the size of a small moon, moved in perfect formation toward the blue marble hanging in the darkness. Their hulls were black, absorbing light, making them appear as tears in the fabric of space itself. Commander stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, all four of his arms clasped behind his segmented back. His compound eyes reflected the tactical displays floating before him. Earth, the third planet, home to the species called humans. "Analysis complete, Commander," reported his second officer, Aura. Her voice carried the clicking undertones of their species. "Preliminary scans confirm intelligence reports, primitive chemical rockets, basic nuclear fission, no plasma shields, no quantum drives. They barely have a presence in their own star system." His mandibles clicked in satisfaction. This would be easy. Too easy, perhaps. The Empire had conquered 47 star systems over the past millennium. Each conquest followed the same pattern: observe, assess, overwhelm. The target species always fell within cycles. "Fleet status?" asked. "All ships report ready, weapons charged, invasion forces prepared, we await your command." Studied Earth through it looked peaceful, vulnerable. Intelligence reported billions of humans living on its surface, divided into hundreds of nations, constantly warring amongst themselves. They would be easy to break, easy to subjugate, the needed workers for the mining colonies. Humans would serve. "Begin standard intimidation protocol," ordered. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Let them know their world now belongs to the Empire." Aura's claws danced across her console. "Broadcasting now." The message went out in every language Earth had ever transmitted into space. It was simple, direct. Surrender or face extinction. Humans had one planetary rotation to respond, 24 of their hours. Settled into his command throne, confident. He had seen this moment before on other worlds. The target species would panic. Their governments would fracture. Some would beg for mercy. Others would launch their pitiful weapons in defiance. It never mattered. The always won. What did not know, what none of them knew, was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first looked up at the stars. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, inside a facility that officially did not exist, alarms screamed. General Sarah sprinted down the corridor, her boots echoing on metal floors. She had been in the middle of dinner when the alert came through. Now, still in civilian clothes, she burst into the command center where dozens of analysts sat before holographic displays showing feeds from every telescope, satellite, and sensor array on Earth. "Talk to me," she barked. Colonel met her at the center console. His face was pale. "Said he picked them up 12 minutes ago. Deep Space Array confirmed 8 minutes later. They're real, Sarah, 300 ships. They just crossed lunar orbit." Sarah's stomach dropped. "Have they made contact?" "Yes, ma'am, broadcasting on all frequencies. It's..." pulled up the transmission. The words filled the screen in English, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, and dozens of other languages. "People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Empire. Surrender all military assets. Prepare to receive occupation forces. Resistance will result in planetary sterilization. You have one rotation to comply." Silence fell across the command center. Sarah stared at the words. She felt cold, small. Then something else stirred inside her. Something that had been building in humanity for generations, since the first moment they realized they might not be alone in the universe. "Get me the President," she said quietly, "and activate Protocol Archimedes." Blinked, "Sarah, that's..." "I know what it is." She turned to face him, and he saw something in her eyes that made him step back. Not fear, not panic, certainty. "They think we're primitives, they think we'll roll over, they don't know us at all." She walked to the main display and activated the global defense network. Lights began appearing across the planet. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Each one a facility, a weapons system, a contingency plan. Humanity had been building for this day since 1947, since Roswell, since the first whispered rumors of visitors from beyond. "We've had 78 years, Sarah said, her voice carrying across the command center. 78 years to imagine what might come from the stars. 78 years to prepare, to plan, to build things we hoped we'd never need to use." She pulled up another display. This one showed a single word in red letters: Archimedes. "They want our surrender in 24 hours. Sarah's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Let's give them something else. On the Eternal Dominion waited. The first hours were always the same. Shock, denial, confusion among the target species. He had ordered dinner brought to the bridge. He ate slowly, savoring the tender flesh of a beast, watching Earth rotate beneath him. Then Aura's console lit up with alerts. Commander, we're detecting energy spikes across the planet's surface. Set down his meal, explain. Multiple locations, hundreds of them, power signatures are unusual, not consistent with their technological level. A warning prickle ran down spine. Show me. The tactical display zoomed in on Earth. Across every continent, red dots appeared. They pulsed in unison like a heartbeat. What are those? Demanded. Scanning now, Commander. They appear to be underground facilities, heavily shielded. We cannot penetrate their defenses to. The Earth moved. Not the planet itself, but something on it. The red dots flared brilliant white, and from each one something launched. Not missiles, not rockets, something else. Leaned forward, analysis. Unknown objects, moving at 0.3 light speed, accelerating, trajectory. Aura's voice faltered. Commander, they're targeting our fleet. Impossible, they don't have. The first projectile hit the Shadow's edge, a destroyer on the fleet's outer perimeter. There was no explosion, no fireball. The ship simply stopped. Its running lights went dark. Its engines died. 3 seconds later, it began to break apart, torn into pieces by forces couldn't see. Then the second hit, and the third, and the fourth. All across the fleet, warships died. Evasive maneuvers, roared. Return fire, all batteries, open fire on the planet. But the objects were too fast, too precise. They wove between ships, avoiding defensive fire, each one finding its target with impossible accuracy. And where they hit, ships died. Aura's voice shook. Commander, we've lost 47 vessels. No, 53, no. Shield strength to maximum, get us out of here. But it was already too late. One of the objects struck the Eternal Dominion directly amidships, felt the impact through the deck plates. Alarms screamed. His crew scattered like insects. The lights went out. In the darkness, heard Aura's whisper, What are they? Then the emergency systems activated, bathing the bridge in red light. Stared at the tactical display. Half his fleet was gone, just gone. And from Earth, more objects were launching. For the first time in his military career, Commander felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. To be continued in. Part 2, The Reckoning. Sarah watched the tactical display with her arms crossed, her face illuminated by the glow of dying alien ships. Around her, the command center was silent except for the soft beeping of computers and the whispered updates from analysts. Archimedes is performing beyond projections, Colonel reported. Kinetic penetrators achieving 94% hit ratio. Enemy fleet is in full retreat. How many did we take out? Sarah asked. 147 confirmed destroyed. Another 68 critically damaged and breaking apart. The rest are attempting to flee beyond lunar orbit. Sarah nodded slowly. 78 years of preparation. Thousands of scientists, engineers, and soldiers working in secret. Trillions of dollars poured into weapons systems that governments officially existed. And in 6 minutes, they had cut an invasion force in half. But she felt no joy, only a cold, creeping dread. They'll be back, she said quietly. This was just the first wave, a scouting force. When they don't report back, more will come. Let them come, said. There was heat in his voice, pride. We just proved we're not defenseless. No, Sarah turned to face him. We just proved we're dangerous. There's a difference. She pulled up a new display, this one showing trajectories of the surviving alien ships. They were burning hard for deep space, engines flaring bright enough to see with the naked eye. Running, terrified. Open a channel, Sarah ordered. Broadcast on the same frequencies they used. Ma'am. Do it. Hesitated, then nodded to a communications officer. Channel open. Sarah stepped forward, facing the camera. She took a breath, composing her thoughts. Then she spoke. Empire, this is General Sarah of Earth Defense Command. You came to our world seeking easy prey. You found something else. We are not your subjects. We will never be your subjects. Return to your territory. Leave us in peace. Or the next time you come, we'll do more than bloody your nose. She gestured and cut the feed. Think they'll listen? He asked. Sarah shook her head. No, but at least we gave them the chance. Commander clung to his command throne as the Eternal Dominion limped away from Earth. The ship was dying around him. Life support flickered. Gravity generators sputtered. Half his crew was dead, the other half scrambling to keep the vessel intact long enough to reach the nearest. He had watched the human's message with all four eyes. The female's face was burned into his memory, not because of her words, but because of what he saw behind them. No fear, no desperation, just cold, hard certainty. They had been waiting for this. The humans, they had been prepared. Aura, he croaked. His voice synthesizer was damaged, making him sound more machine than organic. Status of the fleet. His second officer looked worse than he felt. She had lost both her left arms in the attack, severed when a bulkhead collapsed. Purple blood still oozed from the wounds despite the emergency medical gel. 79 ships remain operational. Most are damaged. We've lost over 40,000 crew. And Commander, she paused, mandibles trembling. We're being tracked. The humans have launched surveillance drones. They're following us. Felt sick. They weren't just beaten. They were humiliated. The humans were making sure they saw exactly how far they were running. Course, he asked. Gamma 7, 6 cycles at current speed, if the engines hold. 6 cycles, 6 days to reach help. 6 days to figure out how to explain this disaster to the High Council. Brought up the sensor logs from the battle, if it could even be called that, more like an execution. He watched the replay again, watching those strange projectiles tear through his fleet. They weren't missiles. They weren't energy weapons. They were something else entirely. Aura, what were they? What did the humans use? Analysis is incomplete, Commander, but preliminary data suggests relativistic kill vehicles. Solid tungsten rods accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. No explosives. No warheads, just mass and velocity. But that requires massive underground accelerators. Yes, Commander, the humans have been building them for decades. We found evidence of 73 separate facilities, all hidden, all shielded, all waiting. Minds reeled. The intelligence reports had been wrong, catastrophically wrong. Earth wasn't a primitive backwater ripe for conquest. It was a fortress, a trap baited with the appearance of weakness. How, he whispered. How did they know to prepare? We've never made contact with them before, never entered their system. How did they know? Aura had no answer. Neither did anyone else on the bridge. But was starting to understand something terrible, something that made his blood run cold. Humanity had been afraid of this moment for generations, afraid of visitors from the stars, and fear had driven them to build weapons capable of shattering an invasion fleet in minutes. If fear could do that, what else were they capable of? Send a priority message to the High Council, he ordered. Maximum encryption. Tell them we've encountered a hostile species. Tell them Earth is not a target for conquest. Tell them to classify it as a Level 9 threat. Aura stared at him. Commander, Level 9 is reserved for species capable of mutual annihilation. I know, met her gaze. Send the message. 3 days later, Sarah stood in the Oval Office, surrounded by world leaders on video screens. The President of the United States sat across from her, looking older than he had this morning. Walk me through it again, he said. All of it. Sarah nodded. She had been giving briefings non-stop since the attack, to the UN Security Council, to NATO, to every major power on the planet, but this was different. This was the decision that would shape humanity's future. We've been tracking the survivors, she began. They reached an alien yesterday. We detected increased communications traffic. Then 6 hours ago, a second fleet appeared, this one larger than the first, 500 ships. Murmurs of alarm from the screens. But they're not approaching Earth, Sarah continued quickly. They're holding position at the edge of the solar system, waiting. We think they're trying to decide what to do about us. Can we hit them from here? Asked the Chinese premier. No, Archimedes has a maximum effective range of lunar orbit. Beyond that, the targeting systems lose accuracy. These ships are staying outside our reach. So we're in a standoff, the president said. Yes, sir, for now. The Russian president leaned forward on his screen. What do they want? We don't know. They haven't tried to communicate since our counterattack, but we've intercepted some of their transmissions. Our linguists are working on translation, but it's slow going. Best guess, General, the president said. What happens next? Sarah took a breath. One of three things. Either they decide we're too dangerous and leave us alone, or they decide we're too dangerous to exist and try to sterilize the planet from long range. Or they try to talk. Silence fell across the office. Could we negotiate with them? The French president asked. Find some middle ground. I don't know, Sarah admitted. We know nothing about them, their culture, their values, their motivations. For all we know, they see us as insects, or worse. Then we need intelligence, the president said. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Agreed, which is why I'm recommending Operation Hermes. Sarah pulled up a new holographic display. It showed a small ship, barely larger than a shuttle, with strange, curved lines and organic-looking armor. What am I looking at? The president asked. A diplomatic vessel, captured alien technology retrofitted with human systems. We salvaged it from one of the destroyed ships. Our engineers have been working around the clock to make it operational. And you want to do what with it? Sarah met his eyes. Send someone to talk to them, face to face, find out what they want, see if we can prevent another war. You're suggesting we send an envoy to an alien fleet that just tried to invade us? Yes, sir. That's insane. Yes, sir, but it's also our best chance at peace. The president leaned back, rubbing his temples. And who exactly did you have in mind for this suicide mission? Sarah smiled. I have someone perfect. Lieutenant Commander David Park had been enjoying the first real sleep he'd gotten in 4 days when his phone rang. He fumbled for it in the dark, nearly knocking over a glass of water. Parks, he mumbled. David, it's Sarah. Get dressed. I need you at Site Omega in 1 hour. David sat up, suddenly awake. Site Omega was the code name for the main Archimedes installation. General, I just finished a 72-hour shift analyzing. I know, this is more important. 1 hour, David, don't be late. The line went dead. David stared at his phone, then swung his legs out of bed. Whatever this was, it was big. Sarah didn't call personally unless the world was ending, and given recent events, that might not be hyperbole. He arrived at Site Omega 53 minutes later, tired but caffeinated. The facility was a hive of activity, with technicians and soldiers rushing between buildings. Sarah met him at the entrance to Hangar 7. David, how's your linguistics background? Rusty, I studied Mandarin and Arabic at the academy, but that was years ago. Why? Because I need someone who understands communication, not just language but context, subtext, the things people don't say. She led him into the hangar, and David stopped dead. The ship was beautiful, wrong but beautiful. Its hull seemed to shift colors in the light like oil on water. The proportions were all off, too sleek in some places, too bulky in others. But there was an elegance to it that took his breath away. Is that alien tech? Yes, we're calling it the Hermes, and you're going to fly it. David turned to stare at her. I'm going to what? The fleet is waiting at the edge of the system. We need to make contact, find out their intentions. You're going to be our ambassador. General, I'm not a diplomat. I'm a signals analyst. I decode transmissions. I don't. You speak 4 languages. You have a doctorate you were top of your class in cultural analysis. And most importantly, you volunteered for first contact protocols when you enlisted. Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. I need someone smart enough to understand what they're saying and brave enough to say it to their face. That's you, David. David looked at the ship, then at Sarah, then back at the ship. When do I leave? Sarah smiled. 6 hours. Better start studying. We've got a crash course in language and culture waiting for you. 6 hours to learn an entire alien language. You'll have help. We've got their communication logs from the battle. And one other thing. Sarah gestured, and a technician wheeled out a large container. Inside, suspended in a stasis field, was a small creature. It looked like a cross between a crab and a praying mantis, with delicate antennae and multiple compound eyes. What is that? David whispered. Call them listeners. They're a symbiotic species, telepathic translators. This one was captured from the wreckage. Say if you bond with it, it can help you understand language and thought patterns. David stared at the creature. It stared back, its eyes reflecting his face 1,000 times. Bond with it, you mean? Let it attach to your nervous system. Yes. That's dangerous, probably irreversible, possibly fatal. Sarah's expression softened. I wouldn't ask if there was another way, but we're out of time, David. That fleet could attack at any moment, or they could leave and come back with a bigger force. We need to know what they're thinking, and this is the only way. David took a shaky breath. He thought about his family, his friends, the life he'd built. Then he thought about the view of Earth from space, that fragile blue marble hanging in the void. Everything he loved was down there. Do it, he said. Sarah nodded to the technician. The stasis field deactivated. The listener stirred, antennae twitching. Then, faster than David could track, it leaped from the container and latched onto his neck. He felt a sharp pain, then something else. A presence in his mind, foreign, curious, intelligent. Hello, said a voice that wasn't a voice. I am Quicksilver, you are David. David's knees buckled. Sarah caught him. It's okay, she said. Let it happen, don't fight it. Don't fight, Quicksilver echoed in his mind. We are together now. Two minds, one purpose. You want to speak with the I will help you. I will show you their words, their thoughts, their fears. Images flooded David's consciousness. Alien cities, strange creatures, languages he'd never heard but somehow understood. It was overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying. He looked up at Sarah, and when he spoke, his voice was his own but carried an echo of something else. I'm ready, he said. Let's go talk to them. Sarah's expression was unreadable. Pride, sadness, fear. May God go with you, David. Let's hope he does, David replied, because I have a feeling we're going to need all the help we can get. To be continued in Part 3. Part 3, The Journey. The Hermes shuddered as it broke free from Earth's atmosphere. David gripped the controls, if they could be called controls. They were more like living things, responding to his thoughts as much as his touch. The alien technology interfaced directly with his nervous system through Quicksilver, turning pilot and ship into something more unified than he'd ever experienced. Steady, Quicksilver whispered in his mind. Feel the vessel, become the vessel. Easy for you to say, David muttered. You've done this before. Many times, the listeners serve as bridges between species, between minds. It is our purpose. David glanced at the small creature now permanently attached to the base of his skull. In the mirror panel, he could see its iridescent shell blending with his skin, tendrils woven into his nervous system. The medical team had warned him, removing Quicksilver would likely kill them both. They were bonded now. Symbionts. The earth fell away beneath him, growing smaller. David felt his chest tighten. Behind him was everything he knew, ahead the unknown. Hermes to Earth control, he said into the comm. I've cleared the atmosphere, beginning acceleration toward the rally point. Sarah's voice crackled back. Copy that, Hermes, all systems nominal, you're cleared for transit. David, be careful. Always am, General. Liar. Despite everything, David smiled. Then he pushed the throttle forward and the Hermes leaped toward the stars. The alien vessel moved unlike any human craft. Instead of burning fuel, it seemed to push against space itself, creating a bubble of warped reality that carried it forward at impossible speeds. Quicksilver helped him understand the principles, something about quantum field manipulation and dimensional membranes, but the practical application was pure instinct. They are masters of this technology, Quicksilver explained. They have traveled the stars for 10,000 of your years. Their empire spans 17 galaxies. They are ancient, proud, and very, very dangerous. So I'm flying into the territory of an ancient, proud, dangerous alien empire that just tried to invade my planet. Great. Any other cheerful facts you want to share? The respect strength. Your species impressed them. That is both good and bad. How so? Good because they will listen to you. Bad because they will want to test you further. David processed that. Test us how? I do not know, but be prepared for anything. The next 6 hours passed in strange silence. David drifted through the void between Earth and the fleet, watching the stars wheel slowly overhead. Quicksilver taught him their language, feeding words and concepts directly into his brain. It was exhausting and exhilarating in equal measure. The language was nothing like human speech. It involved clicks, subsonic vibrations, and pheromone signals that humans couldn't naturally produce. But Quicksilver could translate both ways, turning David's thoughts into communication and vice versa. They are hierarchical, Quicksilver explained. The strong rule, the weak serve. Status is everything. When you meet Commander, you must show respect but not submission, deference but not fear. It is a narrow path to walk. What happens if I screw it up? He will likely kill you. Fantastic. David studied the dossier Sarah had compiled on. Former military commander, decorated veteran, member of the High Council, responsible for the conquest of 12 star systems. By alien standards, a hero. By human standards, a mass murderer. And David was about to walk into his den. The fleet appeared on sensors gradually, like dark stains spreading across the star field. 500 ships, each radiating enough energy to level a continent. They hung in formation, a wall of metal and malice. Hermes to fleet, David broadcast on the frequencies Quicksilver provided. This is Lieutenant Commander David Park of Earth. I come under diplomatic immunity. I request an audience with Commander. Silence. David waited, hands sweating on the controls. Seconds stretched into minutes. Then a reply came, harsh and clicking. Human, you are either very brave or very foolish, perhaps both. Proceed to coordinates we transmit. Land in the hangar bay, come alone. Any deviation will result in your immediate destruction. They are cautious, Quicksilver observed. They fear a trap. Can you blame them? No, you destroyed half their invasion force. They are right to be afraid. David followed the coordinates to the largest ship in the fleet, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed even Earth's biggest vessels. It bristled with weapons, each one capable of reducing cities to ash. As he approached, a section of the hull irised open, revealing a cavernous hangar bay lit by harsh purple light. This is it, David thought, no turning back now. The Hermes settled onto the deck with a soft hum. Through the viewport, David saw soldiers surrounding his ship, dozens of them, armed with weapons that looked like organic growths melded with technology. They were larger than he expected, each one standing nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and exoskeletons that gleamed like black glass. Remember, Quicksilver cautioned, show no fear, they can smell it, literally. David stood, checked his uniform one last time, and opened the hatch. The air that rushed in was thick and humid, smelling of ammonia, and something sweet he couldn't identify. Alien atmosphere. His lungs burned slightly, but the adaptation meds the medical team had given him kicked in, suppressing his body's rejection response. He stepped out onto the deck. Immediately, 24 weapons trained on him. David raised his hands slowly, showing he was unarmed. I am David Park, he said aloud. Quicksilver translated, adding the proper harmonic frequencies and pheromone markers. I speak for Earth, I come in peace. The soldiers didn't move. Then the ranks parted and a massive figure strode forward. Commander was even larger than his subordinates, his exoskeleton adorned with scars and markings that suggested countless battles. 3 of his 4 eyes focused on David while the 4th scanned the Hermes, searching for threats. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding stone. You are the diplomat, you are small. Size isn't everything, David replied through Quicksilver. Your fleet learned that the hard way. A dangerous silence fell. The soldiers tensed. David's heart hammered, but he held his gaze. Then, shockingly, his mandibles parted in what might have been a laugh. Bold, I see why your species survived. Very well, small human, follow, we have much to discuss. He turned and strode away. David followed, flanked by guards. They walked through corridors that seemed grown rather than built, organic walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Others watched from doorways, their compound eyes tracking him with undisguised curiosity. They have never seen a human before, Quicksilver noted. You are an oddity to them, perhaps even a curiosity. Great, I'm a zoo animal. Better a curious zoo animal than dead prey. Fair point. They arrived at what David assumed was a command center. The room was dominated by a massive holographic display showing Earth in perfect detail. As they entered, David saw dozens of officers studying tactical data, analyzing Earth's defenses. Planning their next attack. Gestured to a raised platform, David climbed up, standing before the assembled officers. He felt very small, very alone. Human David Park announced, his voice carrying through the chamber. You have come to speak for your world. The High Council has authorized me to hear your words, but know this, we are not negotiating your surrender. That time has passed. We are deciding whether your species deserves to exist at all. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. David felt ice in his veins. Now Quicksilver urged, "Speak now, show them strength." David took a breath and stepped forward. "Commander, honored members of the Empire, I stand before you not to beg for mercy, but to offer an alternative to war." War's mandibles clicked with amusement. "There is no war, there is only conquest or extinction. Choose which you prefer." "Neither. I propose a third option, coexistence." The chamber erupted in clicking laughter. David waited for it to die down. "You think we're weak because we're not as advanced as you," he continued. "You think we're primitives who got lucky, but you're wrong. We're survivors, innovators. We've spent our entire history fighting each other, yes, but we've also learned to adapt, to overcome, to endure." "Pretty words," said, "but words mean nothing, only strength matters." "Then let me demonstrate our strength." David pulled up the data chip Sarah had given him. "With your permission, I'd like to show you something." Gestured, and a technician took the chip, scanning it for threats before inserting it into the holographic display. Images filled the air: Earth's history, wars, plagues, natural disasters, extinctions, but also art, music, literature, science, mathematics, engineering, the pyramids, the Great Wall, the Apollo moon landing, the International Space Station, Archimedes. "We've been to hell and back 1,000 times," David said. "We've nearly destroyed ourselves more times than I can count, but we always survive, always rebuild, always push forward, not because we're the strongest but because we refuse to give up." The chamber had gone quiet. "You see us as a threat," David continued. "And you're right, we are dangerous, but we're also capable of incredible compassion, loyalty, sacrifice. We don't want to be your enemies, Commander, but if you force us to fight, we will fight with everything we have, and we will make you pay for every inch of ground you take." Stared at him for a long moment. Then he gestured, and the guards seized David's arms. "Brave speech," said softly, "but insufficient. You wish to coexist? Then prove your species is worth the effort. Tomorrow you will face the trial of worth. If you survive, we will negotiate. If you fail." He didn't need to finish the sentence. David was dragged from the command center, his heart racing. As they threw him into a cell, Quicksilver's voice echoed in his mind. "The trial of worth, this is very bad." "What is it?" David demanded. "What does it mean?" "It means they will test you, your strength, your intelligence, your will to survive. It is how they determine if a species deserves consideration." "And if I fail?" "Then they will sterilize your planet from orbit. Every human, every animal, every living thing. Earth will become a dead rock, a monument to your failure." David slumped against the wall. No pressure then. "David, there is something you should know about the trial." "What?" "In 10,000 years, only 3 species have ever passed it." The cold in David's veins turned to ice. "What happened to the others?" Quicksilver was silent for a long moment. "They died, all of them, every single individual who attempted the trial." David closed his eyes. Behind his eyelids he saw Earth, saw his family, his friends, 7 billion souls hanging in the balance. "Then I'd better be the 4th, he whispered. Outside his cell, the fleet waited in silence, watching the small human who had dared to walk into their midst. Tomorrow would decide everything.